y'all, welcome to Criminally Creative, a channel about my various creative endeavors. Today is Sunday, November 16th, 2025, and this is episode 91. My name is Susan. You can find me on Ravelry as Legal Eagle and on Instagram as Criminally Creative, the number one. If you're new here, I appreciate you checking me out. I hope that you like what you see. Please feel free to like, subscribe, do all the things. Ask any questions and comments, or email me, which my email address is below. And if you're returning, as always, I appreciate you coming back and watching. And I guess that's about it. I don't know why it always feels like it's been forever since I've done this, and this time it's actually only been 2 weeks. So anyway, which moves on into hearsay. Not a whole lot the last 2 weeks. Unusual, normal work. Went to one Carolina football game, which ended with a win. There was another one yesterday that was an away game that did not end with a win. Went to a coworker's baby shower Friday night. Went to a baby shower for my stepdaughter yesterday. So a lot of random little things, but basically, you know, just normal life. Nothing unusual or out of the ordinary. So, and I just heard my husband come in the house. We'll see if he actually pays attention to the sign that he gave me that's on the door that tells him I'm recording. Anyway, so that's about it for hearsay. One interesting kind of thing is I went to, we know the owner of the local Hallmark store is a good friend of my husband's, and they had their like annual holiday open house last week. And ran into a guy that I knew in college who I have known for 25 years that he lived here, but I've just never run into him. And, you know, I knew him in college. We lived in the same dorm my freshman year, and I would call us friends, but not the types of friends that I really made a point of keeping up with. So anyway, ran into him and his wife, who also lived in the dorm, and so that was kind of fun to catch up. And then realized that his niece actually works with me now in a different division, but I work with her a lot. I just never made the connection. So anyway, that was about the only unusual thing that happened. So we'll move on. Verdicts. I did have one verdict, which was the baby blanket that I showed you last time in process, but it was a gift for my stepdaughter at her baby shower yesterday, and so I've already given that to her, and I forgot to take a picture of the final product. So what you saw last week or last time is mainly what it looks like. It was just a little bit longer. So so that's it for verdicts, and we will go to court is in session. So I do have quite a few cross-stitch projects to show you. I'm not going to show you any knitting this time. I am working on another baby blanket for the coworker whose baby shower was Friday night, but I'll see him pretty much every day until sometime in December, so I'll get that done before Christmas and give that to them then. And I'm working on a couple other knitting projects here and there, but I haven't made a ton of progress on any of them. So at some point I'll show you some more knitting. Anyway, let's move to the cross stitch. First up is in this bag from the Brass Button with koala bears, which doesn't really have anything to do with what's in it, but if you are new here, as I talk, I put a picture up of what the project will look like when it's finished, and then if it is something that I started before the last interim, I will put a picture up of what it looked like the last time that I showed it to you. So first up is my 2 Whip Go calls for November. This is Treasure Hunt Bookshelf. I started this in about approximately July of 2016. That was back before I was tracking everything accurately. I'm doing it on 25 count Lugana 1/1 full cross. I started this as the full Treasure Hunt Bookshelf. This is charted by Heaven and Earth Designs based on artwork by Amy Stewart. It is a large project. It was, it was my first full coverage that I started. I started the full thing, and a couple years ago, I kind of sat down with all my full coverages I'd started and assessed whether or not I wanted to convert to the mini, whether or not I would ever finish them. And this is one that the full thing, I was like, well, I would love to finish the whole thing, but I'm not sure I ever will. So I actually cropped this one from the original pattern. So I'll put I have put a picture of what the whole thing looks like. Hopefully I've done that. But this is a picture of what I have cropped it to. Now, if you go to the Heaven and Earth website, there is what I think they call a quick stitch or some kind of crop of this, except their crop is almost as many stitches as the whole piece of this, because they have done a much more detailed chart of that portion of the chart. I instead took the regular size version, because if you've never done Heaven and Earth designs, they call them Hades. I'll say Hade from here on out, just so you know what I'm talking about. They will sometimes do a max color, a max size, you know, that are more detailed or more colored or that sort of stuff. This was the regular of the full-size picture. And I have just cropped part of that chart. So instead of 350,000 stitches or whatever it is, my cropped version is like 95,000 stitches. So hopefully that makes sense. Whereas the quick stitch version of this image on Hade is still like 250,000 stitches, because they just made it much more detailed. Anyway, that's a lot of explanation that I won't go through every time if you're new here, but so Treasure Hunt Bookshelves is my crop version. My crop version is 94,920 stitches, and I still had about 1,200 stitches I needed to do for September's WIPCO that I had not gotten to, and then it was also called for November for another 1,600 stitches. So I did a total of 2,855 stitches, and I've done a total of 16,213 of 94,920, and so I'm at 17.1% of my cropped version. So I filled in, all this up here is filled in except for what you see still is white is where Chronic needs to go. And I am doing the Chronic now, but I can only do about 100 stitches of Chronic before I'm fed up and I need to go do regular floss. So as I pick this up again every time, I'll do at least a strand or two of Chronic and then go on, and eventually that top Chronic, those Chronic spaces will be filled in as well. I experimented with, since I'm doing it 1/1 on full cross, whether or not just a half cross of the Chronic, since it's the number 4 braid thicker, would work. But it didn't quite look right to me. So I'm doing a full cross with the Chronic, which is bulky in that area. But I have done all of the cross stitches around where the Chronic goes, at least in that upper portion. I will do Chronic as I go, but I like to make sure I've done all of the regular floss stitches around it, because I think pulling up regular floss next to, in a same hole where Chronic is, just tears up your floss. So, next up, my second whip go call for November is in this bag that's also by the Brass Button. This is Blue Ridge, which is another full coverage, but a smaller full coverage that was charted by CrossStitch.com based on artwork by Derek McCrae. I started this May 28th of 2022. As you can see, this is much smaller full coverage. My whip go call for this was 1,000 stitches. I did 1,022 stitches. And so this is currently at 7,388 of 37,632. And it's currently at 19.6%. So I mainly did, I'm really kind of trying to work relatively evenly across. So I tend to like start over here and do a part and fill it in, and then I'll kind of start trying to even out till I get down to about the same place all the way across, and then I'll go down again. So that's kind of the way I'm working. I'd like to get down to more of the blues and greens, but I know if I hop down there, then I'll end up doing what I consider the boring colors of it at the end. So, trying to eat my vegetables is, I know I've heard Jessie Marie say that, but I'm not sure she's the first one that said that. So, whoever came up with that phrase, I'm sorry, I can't think who you are to give you credit. So, next up is Gridiron Grind. Gridiron Grind is a idea that was come up with by Kim Hollenbeck, who has a floss tube. but also is one of the administrators of Full Coverage Fanatics, which I am in, but I am not doing it as an event in Full Coverage Fanatics because my projects are not full coverage projects. One of them is all but full coverage, but it's not technically full coverage. But anyway, so I'm just doing this kind of on my own, not as an actual Facebook group event. I am doing this for UNC Tar Heels football instead of pro football because that's what I do. If you're new here, I have season tickets to the UNC Tar Heel football games. So if there's a home game, I'm pretty much there. We've had 2 games since I last recorded. Last time I recorded, we had played the October 31st game, but I had not stitched for it yet. And that was against Syracuse, which we won 27-10. And then November 8th, we played Stanford at home, which we also won 20-15. We almost gave it away towards the end there. But then yesterday we played Wake Forest, and we lost that one 12-28. So I have stitched for Syracuse and Stanford. I have not yet stitched for Wake Forest. So my project that I stitch for, whatever the Tar Heel score, I do that times 10. And then I'll show you in a moment. I also have a project that I use for all opponents that I also do the same thing for whatever the opponent score is for that game. So the Tar Heels project is in this Sock Monkey bag by Lynn X Stitch Creates. And I'm doing Schoolhouse Rock, which was a stitch along by Black Needle Society back in 2023. I started this September 3rd of 2023 as a stitch along, but I knew that, I'm about to lose my needle. I knew that I would not keep up with it at the time. However, I do want to get this one done. So I'm doing this on 36 count Be Stitch Me in the colorway Ocean Blue. And so here is where it currently is. Since you last saw it, I did 500 more stitches. And I forgot to write down the exact stitch count. I don't, for project, things like this where I, I needed to do 270, I will do at least 270 and then at least finish whatever thread I'm on. So I think for this, I ended up like with 280 something like that, for the first game, and 200 and something, 220 or something for the second one. So a total of 500 stitches for the 2 games I've stitched for since you last saw it. I have currently done 8,546 of 16,284 stitches. And so it is currently at 52.5%. So I'm over the 50% mark. I don't think last time that I had passed 50%. Let me see my notes from last time. No, last time I was at 49.4%. So I am now over the 50% mark on that. Ow. Sorry, I keep a needle in the fabric for my project, but that one wants to slide a lot, and I just poked my hand with it. And the project that I do for the opponents is in this bag. No, this is not Gamma's Treasures. This is from somebody who I can never remember, and every time I can't come up with it. So I would have to go searching back through years ago Etsy to figure out who made this bag. So, this project is Scary Sampler by Heartstring Samplery. I started this on September 1st of 2023. I'm doing this on a Be Stitch Me 40 count Be Stitch Me in the colorway Mocha. Sorry, just trying to get some of the excess fabric out of the way so you can actually see the project. And I probably need to do it right side up. I just did it upside down. There we go. So I started in the middle so that I did not leave the house. So like that tree area is kind of the middle of the pattern. The house is actually to the right side of the pattern. I didn't want to leave the house for last. So I have done, since you last saw this, I did 382 more stitches for the 2 games I've stitched for. I'm currently at 2,783 of 26,794 stitches, which is 10.4%. And I'm doing that with all the called for fancy floss. The other 3 projects I've already showed you were all DMC called for. And this is I think Weeks and Classic Color Works, and it's all fancy floss mostly. And yeah, it's Weeks and Classic Color Works, and I'm doing that all with called for. Okay, so I finished those, and what else did I do? So next up, this is in a bag by Nancy, the Disorderly Stitcher, that I bought off of her Etsy site. Her Etsy site. And in this is a project that I started last year with Beth, the Steadfast Stitcher, and Dawn Enchanting Stitches, I think was the other person. This was the Raven Stitchcraft Sal. We all started patterns from Raven Stitchcraft on Etsy. She has a series of patterns that are all kind of like woodcut designs, and this is one of those. I started this October 26th of 2024. This is Wood Witch, and I'm doing it on a 40 count Atomic Ranch in the colorway Pistachio. And so they did a Zoom stitch along Saturday the 8th, which I was not able to participate in because I was at the football game, but I did stitch on it Saturday night and Sunday some to get some stitches on it. I love that. You can see that owl that's in it now. And I did 518 stitches on this. I'm currently at 1,529 of 17,244 stitches, and it's currently at 8.9%. This one goes reasonably fast because it's just all 310. You know, so monochromatic stitching is just, I mean, this one you've got to count a good bit because but you know, there's little lines where I can just go all the way across with half stitch and come back and all the way across, you know, cross every 10th one so I can count easier and that sort of stuff. Next up, so I'm playing with some things for next year, trying to figure out what my plan for next year is going to be. And so I've resurrected my temperature stitching. I did this earlier this year for a while, and I liked it, but then work got really busy, and it was starting to feel like too much of a chore and like I couldn't get it, so I dropped it. When I did it previously, I had 5 projects assigned to 2 numbers each. I'm trying it this time with 10 separate projects, each project assigned to one number 0 through 9. So I just started this past week, the 10th. And what I do is on Sunday, I will look at the projected temperatures for the next week. My weeks run Monday through Sunday. So that's what makes sense in my head, is Monday through Sunday is a week. So on Sundays, I will look at the projected temperatures for Monday through Sunday of the next week and figure out how many each time a project's number comes up, they get 100 stitches. So if 2 projected temperatures for 2 days end in 0, then that project gets 200 stitches. Hopefully that makes sense. If you've watched any Flosstube, you've surely seen other people doing temperature stitches. So I have done stitching for this past week. And so obviously not all 10 projects got hit, but I'm going to show you just the projects that got called for this week. And I'm going to do this probably at least for the next few weeks. So hopefully you'll see all the projects I've assigned. First up is in this bag by the Brass Button. This is the project I assigned for the number 0. It came up twice, so it got needed 200 stitches. This is Across Winter Lake, which is charted by Gecko Rouge. Gecko Rouge only sells kits, so you have to buy the fabric, floss, everything. And it's based on artwork by Joe Grundy. I started this December 7th of 2020, and it got called for 200 stitches. Let me show everything. And so I did 217 stitches, and I did them all down here in this blue, just down there. So that's where they all are. So I currently have done 12,240 of 123,552 stitches. And it's currently at 9.9%. So the hard thing about this one is this area right here, like this is fully stitched, but because there's so many whites, and I'm gonna see if I can get it in there, so many whites and creams and shades of white, that it's very, when you're stitching that area, it's really hard to see what's been stitched and what hasn't been stitched. So the blue's much easier. I have to be in the right headspace to do any of the white. Okay, next up was the number 2, which is in this bag from the Brass Button, I think. This is a Brass Button bag. Yes, Brass Button. Excuse me. This is Winter Rose Manor by Brenda Gervais with Needle and Thread. I started this December 22nd of 2021. I'm doing it on a 36 count from XJuice Design Milk Coffee. This was just called for one day. And hopefully you can see what I've done. So it needed 100 stitches. I gave it 112. And what I did, hopefully you can see the house. So this is where it is completely right now. And let me see if I can fold up a little bit and get it a little closer to show you where I actually worked. So there, hopefully you can see that. So I had started to do part of that. I basically finished this outline of the house so that I can start doing, you know, like the window panes and stuff inside and start filling it in slowly with that color. The bulk of it's going to be that color. So I just did 112 stitches, and I have done 5,768 of 16,130 stitches. This is currently at 35.8%. Next up is in this bag by Whip It Up. I love this bag. It's a vinyl front with the, you see the patchwork down here. This is Sleepy Hollow by Glendon Place. I started this January 8th, 2022. You may notice I've tried to make my temperature projects all older projects, so that the older ones start to get more regular work and eventually will hopefully get done. So this is Sleepy Hollow by Glendon Place. I think I just said I started this January 8th of 2022. I'm doing it on a 28 count Picture This Plus Nocturne. And it needed 100 stitches. I did 133. And basically what I did is I extended this black line all the way up to, that is the corner of the piece. And then I did the inside line up and cut the corner there. So just did a little bit more framework so that I can start working that inside border a little bit more regularly. I'll show you the whole thing again. So far I have done 8,630 of 19,366 stitches. So that is currently at 4.6%. 44.6%. Sorry. I'm trying to read without putting my glasses on because I have a tendency to put them on to read something for y'all, and then I put them up on top of my head, and the overhead light behind me then reflects off of them and creates weird little light things throughout the whole video for y'all. So, and then I don't realize it until I'm editing, and I'm not re-recording at that point. That was for the number 5. I don't remember if I said Winter Rose Manor was for the number 2. Then for the number 6 is in this bag from Gamma's Treasures. This is Winter Cabin, which is a Dimensions Gold kit. This was my birthday start on October 6th of 2021. I'm doing this on the 16 count gray Ada and all the floss from the kit. I had to put some fabric around it to fit in the Q-snap right. Let me get that back behind this again. So this is where it is totally right now. That is all the way across, I believe, to the corner over here. This is one of the few projects that I have not I have it scanned, but I use GoodNotes. I haven't made the effort to put it into Markup RXP. So I don't have an exact stitch count, and probably wouldn't anyway, because a lot of the background is just half cross, and so half crosses it taped. I count 2 of those to equal 1 stitch. So the project itself is 240 by 160, which would come out to 38,400 stitches, except not all of those are full crosses, so it's actually less than that. I just don't know what. So I hand count my stitches on this one as I mark them off on GoodNotes. And I did 100, this called for 100 stitches, so I did 134 stitches, and I did them all right in here in this area in the blues. I think largely, mostly, I'm knocking that needle out. Mostly right up through here, I think. I might have done some more over here. Hopefully I'll have a before picture and you'll see what it was. So I've done a total of 10,046 stitches. Again, 38,400 is how many squares are on the grid, but it's actually less than that total stitch count. I just won't know till I'm finished exactly what that is. You know, if I had to guess, I'd say it's probably somewhere around 28,000 stitches, maybe. But that's just my guess. Sorry, I really should move this one to a bigger bag because it's kind of crammed in here. And then the last temperature stitching I did was for number 8. This is in a bag from Lynn X Stitch Creates. This is a Tisket a Tasket by Rosewood Manor. I started this on May 1st of 2022. I'm doing it on a 36 count Be Stitch Me and Not Another Sampler. I am doing this 2/2. 36 count varies whether I do 1/2 or 2/2, just depending on the design. This is one that I wanted the very plump stitches. This is where it is. You'll see my needle holder. This is a lot of color changes. So temperature stitching is actually really good for this project because there's so many color changes. So just doing 100 or 200 stitches is like plenty until I'm like done swapping colors. You know what I mean? So this was called for 2 days. So I did 213 stitches on it. I did them all. I was trying to remember where I did them. I did them all in here. So I've extended this down some, and I was working on this. I think this part was already done. So I think I've been working on this and extending that. I still like to, if possible, sometimes finish my thread. So like I'll pull the color here, and then if I can go over here and finish the thread, I will, you know, that sort of thing. But there are so many shades of blue, and the colors in this are gorgeous. Actually, let me pull the floss. I'm doing it with all the called for, which is all week Style Works. But as you can see, there's like so many shades of blues and grays, which create a beautiful effect. But it's just, it's a lot of color changing, and it's a bit of a pain in the butt, to be honest. So, but I want the finished project, so I will keep working on it. We will get there eventually. And then at that point, I was done with the temperature stitching, and I had done the goals I'd kind of set for the week. I had, this month, I kind of had like 4 set stitch goals I needed to meet, and I kind of chose a week for each one. So, the 13th, which was what, Thursday, I was like, I've really been wanting to start this project, so I'm going to start a new project. So this is in this fox bag from the Brass Button. And this is Witch's Hollow by Autumn Lane Stitchery. This was originally in a box that they did, and I think it had a different name of something else hollow when it came out in the box. But now on their website, where you can buy it as a PDF or order the physical chart, it is called Witch's Hollow. And so I started this. I did this. I'm doing this on a 16 count Ada. I've been back on kind of an Ada kit lately, and I talked about that in the last episode. So I decided to do this one on a 16 count for the size I wanted. This is Be Stitch Me Pumpkin Patch, which is the called for fabric for this pattern. That is the full width of the pattern. So I've gotten all the way across. It is full coverage for about the top, like 1/4 to 1/3, and then it gets to a point where the fabric is some of the background of the picture. I will have put a picture up so you'll kind of see anywhere you see orange really is the fabric, no stitching. Because like, if I can get my hand on the floss ring, I mean, these are the flosses, and there is no orange. There's that kind of goldy brown and some yellows, but there's no actual orange. So I worked on this 2 nights and did 1,103 stitches. So new starts, my preference is to do at least 1,000 stitches or 10% if the project as a whole has less than 10,000 stitches. So 1,000 stitches or 10%, whichever is less. I had to think which way that went. So I have done 1,103 of 22,040 stitches, and this is currently at 5%. And then last up, so at the beginning of the year, I made a list of all of the projects that I had started prior to 2024 that I did not touch in 2024. And I looked at that list again the other day, and I think there were still 3 left that I had not yet touched in 2025. So my goal, I have a ton of whips, and if you've been here before, you now know that I have over 100 whips now. I think with Witch's Hollow, let me look real quick because I have it up here. With Witch's Hollow, I'm currently at 107 whips. So it's highly likely that there will be years where I don't touch every single project, but I do try to not go more than 2 years without touching it. So I had a list at the beginning of the year of all the projects that I started prior to 2024 that I did not touch in 2024, and I wanted to at least get to those once this year. The list of the projects I did not touch in 2025 is going to be much longer in 2026. So we'll see. That's part of trying to figure out what my plans and stuff are going to be. Anyway, so this is one of the ones I still had not touched. This is in a bag made by Sheba Designs. This is Jack's Bash from Plum Street Samplers. And I started this on October 13th of 2023 and had not worked on it since I first started it. I'm doing this on 36 count R&R reproduction in the colorway AB Siderian. And again, this is an example. This is 36 count, but I'm doing this one 1/2 instead of 2/2. So I did 572 stitches. So usually when I pull a project out, my goal is to do at least 500 stitches before I put it away again. Again, that's something I may have a higher goal for some kind of cutoff point of older projects for next year. I haven't decided yet. Anyway, so I did 572 stitches. That I did them, other than I did a little bit right there, and then basically I did the rest of that whole. I call it the Undertaker's house. I don't know what it's, a house. And then I did a little bit of the one. There's a Happy Halloween right here that's all 1/1, and I had a little bit of floss left on my thing when I finished that house, so I just did those 4 letters of the 1/1 until I ran out. So like I said, I did 572 stitches. I have done a total of 1,072 of 13,247 stitches, so it's currently at 8.1%. That number 13,247 does actually not account for the 1/1, and there's a couple other places where there's 1/1 in this pattern. So what I do for 1/1 in markup is I leave that. If you're familiar with markup, there you have the ability to go in and erase stitches, in the sense that the program, sorry, I can't get the right word out. The program won't count those squares as stitches. And so what I do at the beginning of any project that has 1/1 is I actually go in and erase so that it doesn't count the places where the 1/1 is. And then when I do the 1/1, I mark off a number of squares that I did it as I kind of manually count it, so that my total number of stitches kind of increases up, but is accurate. So if you look at like my markup pattern where I've marked off those stitches for those 4 letters I did, it's just like a black box. It doesn't actually look like the HALL. It looks like a black box because obviously there's up to 4 stitches within one grid. So I have to mark off up to 4 squares. Hopefully that makes sense. It works in my head. And that's really all that matters, I guess. So, anyway, that is all the stitching I have to show you. On the docket, I still have 2 stitch count goals I need to get this month. I need to do 2,200 on Let Freedom Ring, which is the project I'm trying to finish by the semi-quincentennial next year. And then I still need to do my 600 stitches on Anzac. I have not worked on the Kingdom of Books backstitch in the last 2 weeks, but I need to pull that out. I think I'm going to start trying to do at least a couple of strands of backstitch on that a day till it's done. I really don't think it's that much if I can just do it. Part of the hassle is, I want to put in the Q-snap, but I think I'm just going to try and see, because it's really kind of almost tapestry-like and kind of stiff. I think I'm going to try to do it in hand so I don't have to keep moving it around a Q-snap and see what it looks like. Gridiron grind. I have yesterday's game to stitch for. We play Duke this coming next Saturday, the 22nd, and then we will play NC State Thanksgiving weekend. I will not be back with another video until after Thanksgiving. So hopefully I will have Gridiron Grind all stitched up and wrapped up by the next time I record, so that we can then see, how much progress I got on those 2 projects. I think Scary Sampler at that point will probably go back into just the whip pile. Schoolhouse, I will keep trying to come up with a way to work on that because I'd like to get that one done. I am I think gonna try Flosstuber Frenzy. So if you watch Flosstube, you've probably seen a lot of Flosstubers recently have started what they're calling Flosstuber Frenzy. I heard about it from Jen the Caffeinated Crafter, but apparently the Alchemist Stitcher is the first one that came up with it. I've just recently subscribed to her and only had a chance to watch one of her videos. So, and it's the Alchemist Stitcher picked 12 Flosstubers and is, stitching every time, I think 200 stitches every time one of them puts out a video. Jen, the Caffeinated Crafter, of course, made it much more complicated. Love you, Jen, if you watch this. But she got 21 Flosstubers, and she's doing, if the first video is like of the month, it's like 500, and the other video is like 200. If they have a whip in common, she does this, or if they have a milestone, she does this, and it's great, but it's a whole lot. I know Siski Stitches has started doing it. I feel like I've watched at least 1 or 2 others who have done it. I just can't remember right now off the top of my head who is doing it. I have made a list. I've pulled 12 Flosstubers, and I pulled 5 that typically release at least 1 video a week, 5 that typically do every other week, and then 2 that are a little bit more random, but that whenever they put a video out, I always watch it. I'm not going to go through the whole list right now because I haven't stitched on it yet. I decided last weekend to do it. I decided I would start with Monday, November 10th as my start date of pulling videos. There have been 5 or 6 videos that I'm keeping track of. I just haven't actually stitched on any of them yet. I want to do it. At the same time, I'm thinking about plans for 2026. I don't want as much obligation stitching as I've had this year. I had months this year where all I really had time to do mostly is do the things that I had set number goals for. And that's one of the reasons I'm going to have so many projects at the end of the year I did not touch at all. I want to have a little more freedom to decide this month I'm going to play this game and not feel like I have to fit my projects that I have all these stitch count goals on into the game so that I get it both done. If you just heard a buzzer, it was the dryer. I apologize. So that's what I'm juggling with for next year. So I'm going to try this Flosstuber Frenzy. I have a feeling that I'm going to have to choose between Flosstuber Frenzy and temperature stitching because I think that doing both of them is going to feel too restrictive in the sense that it's going to feel like too much obligation stitching again. So I'm going to try to do both of them for right now to see, but I probably will choose one or the other for 2026, or I may decide to alternate or something. I don't know. I like having a game or something for some structure. It might be what I do is that I, one month, if there's not a game that's going to take the whole month that I want to play, I'll choose to temperature stitch that month or Floss Tube Frenzy that month. I haven't decided, so we'll see. The other thing too is like temperature stitching I like, but I also balk a little bit pulling out a project and only doing 100 stitches on it. So if I do Flosstuber Frenzy, what I'm planning to start with at least is 200 stitches for every like regular floss tube they put out. 100 stitches if they put out like a floss tube extra, or if they put out another floss tube in the same week, even if it's a traditional type floss tube. Like Helen D did a my favorite stitching things or whatever, I think last week. I counted that as 100 one because it wasn't one of our regular floss tubes. And then if they show a project that is a whip in common on the video, I will add an extra 50 stitches. But they have to show the project, not just they have a whip in common. Because if I did that, then like I would do probably like have to do 500 extra stitches every time I watch Jessie Marie. Yeah, so that's the plan if I do it. Like I said, I've been recording for this past week. What I'm toying with, part of the reason I haven't stitched is I'm kind of thinking I might wait until I have like at least 2 videos for the weekly ones before I stitch, so that I've got like 400 stitches to do instead of 200. Because that's just more the way my brain works. I don't know, but I don't want to say 400 for every video they put out because then the numbers are going to add up too much, and I'm never going to get there. So that's always running around my brain. 1st of December when I record, you may see some Flosstuber Frenzy. I do have some planned new starts over the next couple months. I thought I'd go ahead and share with you in case anybody's interested in starting with me and the other people that I'm starting some of these with. Thanksgiving weekend, I am planning to start Winter Wind by Samplers and Primitives with Beth the Steadfast Stitcher. I'll put a picture up of these as I talk. And that's sometime Thanksgiving weekend. I'm not exactly sure when, probably not Thanksgiving Day, but also Heidi, the Potty Mouth Stitcher, on her last video said that she and Stacy, the 911 Stitcher, are going to start Harvest Moon by Annie Bees on Thanksgiving. I have that pattern, and I had it partially kitted up, so I have ordered the rest of the floss I needed, and I've got to pick out some fabric. But I'm going to start that also Thanksgiving weekend. I think they're going to start it on Thanksgiving Day. I will not start on Thanksgiving Day, probably, but sometime that weekend. They are also starting American Welcome by Plum Street on New Year's Day. So I am going to use that as an impetus to also start that in early 2026. Again, it may not be New Year's Day, but it will be sometime that New Year's week. December 1st, my friend Peggy and I are going to be starting the Nora Corbett Christmas Couriers, and we are starting with the sleigh. So we don't have any kind of set schedule for those. We just know we're starting the sleigh on December 1st. So, there's the sleigh, and then there are 9 reindeer. I would like to get those done in the next 10 years. So at some point I may kind of come up with my own kind of this is where I get in trouble. It's like, I want to get this done so I can do 500 stitches a week, and then next thing I know, I've got like 15 projects that I have mandatory stitch counts on. Not mandatory in my mind. It's my own personal, I do it to myself, that I've got mandatory stitch counts on, and then I don't feel like I can work on anything else when I feel like it. So we'll see how that goes. A non-specific date, sometime in December, I am probably going to start the pattern that I showed you last time, Christmas Dinner by Cross My Heart. I don't know if Peggy's going to start it or not. She was debating, but I'm probably going to at least start that. For me, if you're new here, for me, everything is a start along. None of it is going to be stitch along. Even if I said I'm going to do 500 stitches a week, at some point that's likely to peter out. Going into 2026, the only things I know for sure are Let Freedom Ring, I will get done by end of June 2026. So on January 1st, or end of December, 1st of January, I will figure out exactly how many stitches I have left on that and divide that by 6, and I will do whatever that is a month. I'm thinking it's going to be around 2,500 stitches. I am going to do a whip go board for next year, but my approach to it this time is going to be, I'm going to pick 5 or 6 of my older projects that I just want to make sure I touch several times next year and put them each on there 4 or 5 times. And when I pull them out, the only stitch goal is going to be whatever minimum stitch goal I set for pulling a project out next year, which right now I'm thinking is, if I started it before 2023, because that would be, I have 27 projects that I started before 2023 still. Well, 26, because one of them is Kingdom of Books, which I will finish at some point. And possibly 25, because one of them I could get finished before the end of the year if I buckle down and work on it. So I've got at least 25 projects that I've started before 2023. Every time those come out next year, I'm going to have to do 1,000 stitches before I put it away. So I think, and then anything 23 or later is going to be my normal 500 that I currently do. That's what I'm thinking right now. So the 5 or 6 projects that I put on my whip go board, whenever they get called, will be either 500 or 1,000 stitches, depending on when they were started. That board will probably be heavily towards the ones that require 1,000, because those are the older projects, the ones I want to get done. But that's not going to be a hard and fast rule. It might be, there might be a project on there that I know I've only got another 2,000 stitches on, and that I might actually get done by the time the number's called on whip go, and if so, then I'll sub something else in. So we'll see. Okay, I'm rambling. I think that's all for on the docket that I know. Calendar, the only thing coming up soon is in January. I will be at Stitch and Thrift in Lexington, South Carolina. That is like a Friday afternoon, most of the day, Friday afternoon, most of the day until Saturday afternoon, kind of sort of one-day stitch. That's just a local thing. But my friend Peggy lives near there, so I have a free place to stay, so I'm going to go spend the night with her and do that. The next full-on retreat that I have planned is in May. I will be at Simply Stitching, which is being put on by Barefoot Needle Art in Dillard, Georgia. So that is all for calendar. We'll move to stashing for retirement. First up is actually not stashing for retirement. It's Stitchy Kindness. My friend Nancy, the Swordly Stitcher, sent me this lovely bag. We started Quilts by Long Dog Sampler on November 1st together. And so she sent me that. She didn't say this was for quilts, but I'm assuming it is because I admired her bag that she had made for herself. So thank you very much, Nancy. I appreciate it. It does now have quilts in it, which I have not worked on anymore, but perfect bag for that. And then I haven't bought as much, but I did buy a few things, and I have some stuff in the mail. So I have been kidding. Like I ordered all the floss for the Haid 2026 sale, which I told you last time that I was going to do, and I did. I signed up for I can't remember if I'd actually signed up last time or was just thinking about it. But I did sign up for it. I picked the Dragonfly. My plan is to just do one page. So that, keep talking about obligation sticker. There will be some obligation stitching in 2076 because however many stitches there is in one page of that, which is usually, I think, like 8,000-ish or so, I'll divide that up by 11 or 12 in order to finish that by the end of the year so I can get the Amy Stewart exclusive that they have not shown a picture of yet, but if you do one page, you will get that. So I do want the Amy Stewart, and I wanted the Dragonfly pattern that I'm doing, and that was the main reason for signing up. But there were a couple of the other options that if you did the 6 pages that you get all 12 patterns that I liked, but not enough that I'm going to try to do 6 pages on a Haid in 1 year. So, but I will do 1 page of the Haid to get the free Amy Stewart chart that has not yet been released and apparently is going to be an exclusive only to this and will not be released. So we'll see. So I ordered all the floss for that because for my full coverage Haids, I like to order full skeins and know I have all the floss that I possibly need, so I don't have to mix dye lots or anything like that. So, and about the time I was ordering the floss, I got a notice that one of the older Mill Hills I'd put on Notify Me was back in stock. So I got this Buttons and Beads Midnight Glow. And I am going to have to put my glasses on for some of this. This is from 2018. Somebody, I don't know if it was Stitch in the Matrix. Somebody recently showed this as a whip, and I had not seen this one. So I had went and put, you know, Notify Me, and it came up as back in stock. And I also got, this is beads for a memorabilia that I'm going to show you in a minute that I ordered from somebody else, but they didn't have the bead pack, so I ordered the bead pack. Because whenever I order a memorabilia, I try to get the bead pack if I can. I figure I can always find the floss or a substitute later, but beads have become more of an issue. Couple things I ordered from Stitch New England. I ordered some floss I needed, and I don't show you floss. So I got the Primrose Quaker, Nativity Quaker, Primrose Cottage, Nativity Quaker. I've been buying all these. And I also got Quaker Snippets #2 from Brenda Gervais with the needle and thread. I bought the fall one. The floss requirements for these are ridiculous. So, like, this one has 1, 2, 3 DMCs, 1, 2, 3 Weeks Dye Works, and 1, 2, 3 Classic Color Works for that little thing. I'm not buying 9 different flosses for that little thing. I will pull a red, a light blue, a green. You know, I will do it in 4 or 5. And the first one was the same way. So, sorry about the glasses. And then the other one was, let's see what that was from. Here, let's do this one other thing. Another 1, 2, 3 stitch order when I was kitting some other stuff up. Let's see if I can show you this without taking out the plastic. It's another memorabilia. I got Autumn in My Garden. This is an older one that I've just wanted. I will do it without the word autumn because I just like the picture. And there's 4 of them for the seasons, but I'm not going to do all the seasons. And like I said, I just got the 1 pack of beads with that. And then the rest of this, so Cobweb Corner, if you have never been to Cobweb Corner, I think her name's Carla. Helen D does a lot of giveaways from Cobweb Corner and knows her pretty well, I think. She is, and this is based on hearsay from Helen D, so if I got it wrong, sorry. My understanding is that Carla is working towards closing her shop and retiring. I don't think it's like she's retiring at the end of the year, everything's got to go. I think it's just she's working towards that point in her life, and so she's trying to work on selling things. So she's been running some sales. She had a sale that was like 30% off $50. So basically, if you put $50 in your cart, it automatically went down, you know, to, what was that? I don't know. What is 30% of $50? 45? I mean, 35? Something like that. It was something like that. And I noticed I got an email. It's now 30% off, some lesser amount than $50, I think. So it's going down. But of course, you know, supplies, she's selling stuff. So I went on there and ordered I ordered a couple of flosses. She has the Gentle Arts 10-yard skeins. So I ordered a couple of those that I needed. And then I just got a few patterns that are patterns that I've kind of always wanted that haven't been like, oh, I got to get that right now. And I figured for 30% off, you know, I'll get them. So I got Mirror B of the Stargazer. And that's what the bead pack that I showed you for 1, 2, 3 stitches for, because she did not have the bead pack. So I got that. I got Grant House 1865 Sampler by Chessie and Me. I've just always liked that one. I got Plum Street Samplers Home for Christmas. Again, just, you know, I love Plum Street, but this is just one that I've had on my list that I've just never gotten around to buying. That one's from 2019. And then another Plum Street, We Remember. This one's from 2024, but I just had not bought it. There's a white cat. I think that's a cat. Looks like a cat to me. A white cat in there that's kind of hard to see. So, and then this is Kathy Barrett called Tonight is Halloween. I don't think I'd ever seen this one. This is 2016. So I had not seen this one. Sorry for them trying to do it without the glare, without taking it out. So I like that. And that says, Shadows of 1,000 years rise again unseen. Voices whisper in the trees. Tonight is Halloween. Let's look at what do the headstones say. The headstone, one says gone up with a arrow pointing up. There, T-H-A-R, there she goes. And then there's names. Yeah, some of them had names and stuff. Anyway, I just thought it was cute. I'd never seen that before. So I got those. And that's it for haul. I actually don't have a lot to show this time. Now, that being said, I have... Sorry, I'm trying to keep stuff from sliding. We've reached the part of the year where I'm like kidding everything up because I'm going to get everything I need and I'm going to spend less money come January. Well, it never completely works, but we've also reached the point of the year where I want to start everything, but I also want to finish everything, and I ping pong back and forth and I can't decide. So don't be surprised if over the next month and a half there are quite a few starts. There might be a couple of finishes. I do have a couple of things that if I decide to just buckle down, I could probably get finished. You know, top on the list is the back stitching on Kingdom of Books. That's the only thing I absolutely know I will get finished. You know, but there's a ton of stuff I want to start, and I don't get overwhelmed by the number of whips I have, because, you know, I'm very much a process stitcher. I just enjoy stitching and like working on things. The only thing that's frustrating is I want to work on everything. And sometimes I think, well, if I just buckle down on these few things and get those done, then I can move to the next few things. But then I want to work on this, and I want to work on that, and I want to start this, and, you know, my brain's just all over the place. Anyway, we're pushing an hour, so I'm going to wrap this up and go. If you made it this far, I appreciate you watching the whole thing. If you're new, again, I appreciate you checking me out, and hope that you will like, subscribe, do all the things. I should be back sometime around... I don't know that I will be back Thanksgiving weekend, which would be the 2 weeks. I am actually, sorry, I'm trying to find my calendar here. I am planning to take all of Thanksgiving week off because I have 3 days off already. So I can take 2 days off work and have an entire week off of work. So that is the plan. So, you know, the 30th would be the last day of the month. But I think it is more likely that it will be sometime the week of the 1st that I would then record again. And, December will be a little different. So I will try to record sometime the first week of December. I will probably try to record again sometime before Christmas. After Christmas, first of the year, I will probably first of the year. In my brain, I like for the year to be over before I do my whip parade, because I like to be able to say this is everything I did stitch count wise in 2025. So my whip parade will probably not be until like the 1st or 2nd of January. But we'll see. You know, on the other hand, if I just really get in the mood, I might do it the 30th of December. I don't know. So, but I think it probably will more likely be the 1st or 2nd. So hopefully there will be at least a couple more videos before Christmas and the new year. And we'll see. As always, linked below is a link to my Google spreadsheet that shows all of my whips with fabric and at least minimal notes about floss, like whether I'm using called for or that sort of stuff. My email is also below if you want to email me any questions, or you can ask me questions and comments. Sorry, I've got patterns and plastic bags sliding over here. You're welcome to email me if you don't want to put something in a public comment. And that's it. So anyway, thank y'all for watching, and I hope if you are in the U.S. that you have a nice Thanksgiving, whether it be with family or friends, and that you all stay safe if you are traveling for any of the holidays, and I will see you hopefully in a little over 2 weeks. Bye, y'all.